Hello, viewer. I have some bad news for you, but there is no review. Yeah, as it turns out, I went to play today's game, and it turns out there is no game. All right, I'll drop the shtick. But there's few games that are nearly so compelling as this one. I was watching a live stream of someone playing this game, and within 15 minutes of that, I found myself logging into Steam and buying it for myself. Next thing I knew, I'd beaten it and started it again in order to 100% complete it. It really is that good. So join me, players, for a closer look at There Is No Game, Wrong Dimension. Greetings, everyone. This is the Hipster Snek, and today we'll be looking at the indie comedy puzzle title There Is No Game, Wrong Dimension. Based on an original 2015 puzzle flash game by original creator Pascal Camisoto, apologies if I said that wrong, I probably did, simply titled There Is No Game. It was for a Game Jam winning submission on the theme of deception. Oh, right, I should probably explain that for the players in the back. A Game Jam is a contest where contestants are given a theme and a set of time, usually something like 24 to 72 hours, to make a game based around the concept. In fact, There Is No Game Jam Edition is available on Steam right now for free if you need to see the proof of this concept working for yourselves without even spending a cent. Speaking of, there was even a Kickstarter to help fund the completion of the final title, but it shockingly enough failed. However, seeing great promise in the idea, the dev team pushed forward regardless. And I'm not going to spoiler the specifics, but this bit of knowledge is actually helpful to know going into the game. Speaking of, let's touch on the plotline of this, non-game. The general concept is actually the same between both versions, though less explored in the Game Jam edition, as it's just a stubborn, self-aware game that doesn't want to be played, hence insisting there is no game to be had. Wrong Dimension, however, expands on this idea further, with the game actively wanting to inhibit the player's progress in numerous creative ways, in hopes of avoiding the malicious Mr. Glitch, a black swirling cloud with evil eyes who enjoys causing mayhem and destabilizing game, that's his name you see, and his code. Thus, as you agitate both game and Mr. Glitch, you'll soon find yourself hurled forcibly through space and time, between games and worlds alike in your pursuit of the truth behind the reticent game, the malicious Glitch, and everything in between in this hilarious ride to the finish. Graphically, this game is one of the most fascinating examples I've seen in a long time. Describing the style is literally impossible, as every chapter has a style to call its own. You start with bright, vivid colors and a well-realized, if cartoony, set of props littering the screen. Next thing I know, I'm in a game reminiscent of Day of the Tentacle, with high-res pixel art with tons of squash and stretch animation effects and just as many tween frames. Then suddenly I'm in a 16-bit overhead view a la Link to the Past and even beyond there. But there is one word I can use to unify all the themes and motifs: beautiful. The art design was crafted with all the love in the world from a team who clearly wanted to properly represent every single style they were paying tribute to. From pixelation to animation, every single thing belongs. There's no mistake here. Everything is done deliberately and with precision that borders on the uncanny at times, and the fact that it all blends together so seamlessly proves the small team that spearheaded these efforts truly knew their stuff. And audio-wise, I just can't praise it enough. For starters, Game, voiced by the lead dev himself, is an amazing companion to share the, non-game experience alongside. His deadpan narration and sarcastic responses to the player's shenanigans help characterize him as an interesting and nuanced companion, even if one who goes the entire runtime virtually unseen by the player. The sense that Game himself is never personified at any point outside of his voice. In fact, the entire voice team does a tremendous job all the way across the board, and the music is amazing and has a huge variety, with sound design and composition credited to Xiaoxian Qi, again, apologies for that, but the music is simply astounding. And there is one particular standout example that I do want to talk about, and players who've seen it already know the one I'm talking about, but it's a bit of a spoiler, if an absolute showstopper. Beat the game and look it up for yourselves. You won't regret taking the time to do so, I guarantee it. On to gameplay, which on its face should be fairly simple. It's effectively a point-and-click adventure title, but the big twist comes from the fact that the game revels in what's known as meta mechanics. For example, early in the game, the way you proceed a particular puzzle is to tap, or click rather, on the actual title itself until you find its weak spot. Things like knocking letters loose from their position absolutely positively fill this game's runtime because nothing is on screen by accident. Even when the game gives you an RPG interface full of symbols representing the items the hero needs to collect, nothing about them actually prevents you from messing with them in new, interesting ways. For example, at one point you're given a huge stone block. Dropping it causes both the RPG hero below to jump, but also for the large skull in his inventory bag to clang its teeth together. And each of these help solve different puzzles in totally different ways. This also includes things like the non-game, I guess, jokingly referencing a non-existent strategy guide for its own non-game, and then unlocking an achievement when you act on the knowledge it gives you a little while later. In the event I haven't made it plain, one of the game's strongest suits is actually its incredible sense of humor. Rewinding a little at the start of the game, we engage in a little mano-a-mano with Game as he stubbornly tries to keep us out. Not only is this great fun because of Game's increasing frustration with what you're doing, but it also very simply yet methodically teaches the player how to play the non-game. It pulls this off by slowly introducing increasingly complex situations and the solutions for each of them, thus allowing the player infinite time to put the key with its correct hole. Actually, this is something I really have to credit the non-game with. There's very, very rarely a timer on anything that you do, so the situation always gives you time to process a solution, even if it takes a few steps to parse what it is that might be expected of you. Even then, if you make mistakes in the rare moment where twitch reflex is required, the game isn't terribly punishing about it, and you're really only inconvenienced by the misstep. But again, this sort of thing is rare and shouldn't really be an issue anyway. The game, or non-game, sorry, is elegantly designed front to back with the user experience in mind. I really cannot say enough good things about how amazing it feels to play this. And normally, and I don't do this, but it's so perfectly executed that, for that reason, I'm actually going to show off the first few bits of the game. Not too much mind, just a little bit because I want to dig more into it. We start at the title call, where we are immediately taken to interacting with the game. In fact, I'm just going to shut up and play a little for you because the seamless transition between merely harassing Game in his natural habitat to series of unfortunate events is just absolutely beautiful. Mind you, this all happens in the game's opening few moments.
Hello, user. This is the program speaking. I've got some bad news. Actually, there's no game. The financial crisis, the apocalypse, blah blah blah, all of this. I hope you're not too disappointed. You can still watch TV, go outside, read a book. Yeah, there's no game, but just between you and me, avoid asking for a refund if you can. Oh, careful! Is that thing going to hold? It's holding. My title! Stop! You will ruin it! Do you have any idea how much mashing time it took me to stick all those letters up there? I've got to put all that back up. Come on! Ah, the chain is stuck. Go ahead. Have fun. I give up. Whoa. Great. The Brick Breaker. Game of the year.
So you see how the writing, voice acting, and simplistic gameplay make an addictive and compelling experience. I won't spoil any further than that, as it only gets better as you go, with the game adding and taking away items as we require them. It's an adventure game with all the idiotic moon logic gone, and only an outstanding non-game standing in its wake. Were I to issue complaint, and I must, is that the non-game is a little short. It can easily be completed in just a few short hours. Now, completing it 100%, that will probably require a few playthroughs, and I, personally, found a great deal of satisfaction from playing through both the Jam Edition and Wrong Dimension in order to get to see through the absolute completion of the non-games. If you haven't yet, be you fan of adventure titles, comedies, or puzzle games, I think you will adore this game. I mean non-game. After all, there is no game. And it's one of the most satisfying indie titles I've experienced in a long time. I laughed, I cried, I didn't play a game, apparently. And that's the final words on this bit of N-D-X-cellence. This has been the Non-Snek, bringing to your attention another wonderful and underloved title. If you liked today's non-episode, hit that like button so I know. And if you can leave a comment below if you didn't play this non-game like I did, I think that's how you'd say that. If you were feeling generous, you can even become a patron at my Subscribe star. And if you can't do that, you can still visit our social media pages and drop us a line. We appreciate hearing from all of you. Come back each week for more obscure reviews, N-D-X-cellence, Snek Talks, and the new home of the Tomodachi Bros podcast, and I will see you there.